back, U.S. President Donald Trump has signed several executive orders focusing on reshaping the U.S. military. One order signed late on Monday bans diversity, equity and inclusion initiatives in the military. It will remove the use of race or sex-based preferences in the armed forces, the Defense Department and Homeland Security Department. Another reinstates more than 8,000 service members who were discharged for refusing to get the COVID-19 vaccine. The White House added that a third executive order tasks officials with formulating a policy on transgender troops. The action does not immediately ban transgender service members. A fourth order mandates a process to develop an American Iron Dome similar to the one used by Israel in the Middle East, while the White House says a proclamation has been signed to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz. The executive orders were signed by Mr. Trump on Border Air Force One. Removing DEI programs from within the federal government was one of Mr. Trump's central campaign promises, and one he has moved swiftly to implement upon taking office last week. DEI programs aim to promote participation in workplaces by people from a range of backgrounds. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump has paused grants, loans and other federal assistance. According to a leaked government memo verified by local media, the acting head of the Office of Management and Budget calls on government agencies to ensure spending is consistent with the president's priorities. The full impact of the pause is not yet clear, although the memo specifies that Medicare and Social Security benefits are not affected. It comes days after the U.S. halted nearly all foreign aid. The move has been criticized by members of the rival Democratic Party, who warn of devastating consequences on programs that people rely on. The order could stop cancer research, food assistance and suicide hotlines. Given the spending that's now on hold was apportioned by Congress, it's likely this will face legal challenges about the scope of presidential power. Serbian Prime Minister Milos Vučević has resigned following nationwide protests over the deadly collapse of a railway station canopy. The Prime Minister said he had taken the decision in order to avoid further complicating things and so as not to further raise tensions in society. 15 people died in November when a concrete canopy at a railway station collapsed in Novi Sad, Serbia's second largest city. The deaths prompted a huge and sustained wave of protests across the country. Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets since then, demanding accountability for the collapse and protesting corruption and alleged lack of oversight on construction projects. More than a dozen people have been charged in connection with the Novi Sad incident, including former Transport Minister Goran Vesic, who resigned days after it happened. Students have taken lead with the protests, halting traffic daily and blocking universities for months. Elsewhere, at least 20 people, including journalists, have been injured in Dakar as students from the 7 affiliated colleges and Dakar University clashed during protests against the pro-vice chancellor. Police officers and border guard Bangladesh personnel took positions between the two sides to prevent further escalation. However, some of the protesters attempted to hit the other group by throwing stones from behind police officers. The clashes erupted after they were attacked by Dakar University students who chased after them in the Nilkat area, leading to a standoff between the two sides. To calm protesters, police used stun grenades and tear gas. Students issued the 4-hour ultimatum with a 6-point list of demands, which includes the abolishment of the quota system in the entrance tests of the 7 colleges, limiting student admissions to classroom capacities and control of the student-faculty ratio. The students' demands also included the resignation of the Dakar University pro-vice chancellor Mamoun Ahmed due to his alleged misconduct towards students of the colleges, as well as a public apology from Dakar University. Back here on the continent, the Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, has described the situation of unrest in the Democratic Republic of Congo as volatile and dangerous. During a press briefing at the United Nations headquarters, he expressed concern for the civilian population. He fears the risks for a broader humanitarian disaster are very high. Basic services have been severely disrupted, with water and electricity compromised and internet service cut since Monday. To ensure the safety of UN personnel, the mission has been evacuating staff from Goma by air and by road.
Well, what I can tell you, basically, the situation on the ground obviously remains volatile and dangerous on the civilian population in a region that is already massively affected and where the humanitarian challenges are daunting, and certainly the risk of a broader humanitarian disaster are very high. And of course, we also want to avoid risk of a broader war. The mission has begun temporarily relocating its personnel and their dependents from Goma over the weekend by air and road. The process is ongoing, with relocations continuing as I speak. Obviously, the safety and security of our personnel is and must be paramount. But parallel to that, of course, our colleagues from MONUSCO continue to deliver on their obligation to protect civilians to the best of their ability, and that includes disarmed combatants in conformity with international humanitarian law. And there are significant numbers of civilian and also disarmed combatants that are currently in various MONUSCO premises.
With close to 6.5 million displaced people in the country, including close to 3 million displaced people in North Kivu. So over one-third of the population of North Kivu is already displaced, and now this Goma crisis is unfolding. So the humanitarian situation in and around Goma is extremely, extremely worrying, with new threshold of violence and suffering reached today as active zones of combat have spread to all quarters of the city, all the neighborhoods of the city. Civilians are taking the brunt of the escalating hostilities. This morning, heavy artillery fire was directed at the city center.
In the meantime, UN aid agencies are warning of a major humanitarian crisis in the Congolese city of Goma, with hospitals overwhelmed by casualties and bodies lying on the streets. The UN refugee agency UNHCR says thousands of people have been fleeing multiple active conflict zones. The aid agencies said their warehouses with food and medical supplies have been looted as M23 rebels continue to battle to take control of the city. Anger has been growing over the M23 offensive, and calls for peace talks to end the fighting are mounting. Speaking in Geneva, the International Committee of the Red Cross said its hospital in Goma received more than 100 wounded in just 24 hours, a number it previously received over the course of a month. It adds that this had forced its staff to turn the hospital car park into a triage unit. Use of heavy artillery in densely populated areas is causing severe injuries, particularly among the children. Belgium and the Democratic Republic of Congo are embroiled in a diplomatic row after a court in Kinshasa upheld a death sentence for a Belgian-Congolese military expert. In an appeal case, the military court issued the verdict to Jean-Jacques Wondo for allegedly orchestrating an abortive coup last year in Congo. The Belgian government announced the immediate recall of its ambassador to Kinshasa for consultations, and they summoned the ambassador of Congo to Brussels to express its disappointment. A statement by the Belgian Foreign Ministry says elements presented during the hearings were weak and lacked credible evidence. Jean-Jacques Wondo A military expert working with the Congolese intelligence service was one of 37 people sentenced to death over what the DRC's army says was a foiled coup attempt in May 2024. Foreign ministers of the Alliance of Sahel States have met in Ouagadougou to finalize their official exit strategy from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Niger's foreign minister, Niger's foreign minister, begging pardon, Bakri Sangari, is not ruling out future engagement with the ECOWAS, as he says the alliance will be available to cooperate with all the countries of the world beyond ECOWAS. The military leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger decided to withdraw their countries from ECOWAS in January 2024, accusing the body of being under the influence of foreign powers, betraying its founding principles and becoming a threat to its member states. The Sahel states are set to officially withdraw from the bloc on January the 29th. Let's get more on this. Joining us on the program is Oluseyi Adeyemo, African Affairs Analyst. Thank you for your time today.
Joke, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the program.
Right, so January 29 is almost here. The Sahel states appear to stand their ground on leaving the ECOWAS bloc. What are the immediate implications of this if they go through with it?
Okay. First of all, it's going to be very, very bad news for the people, in the three countries, because the truth of the matter is these countries are landlocked countries, and like the rest of us in West Africa, we all need all the help that we can get economically. Again, as regards security, we need to hold our hands, to be sure that we're able to get security sorted in this region. So, in my opinion, it's an unfortunate situation that has happened again. Where even when we had the whole of ECOWAS intact, we were not strong enough. Now that we have it, broken into a smaller group, in my opinion, is less powerful. So the implication is, I'd rather we are able to get them back, but unfortunately, it's very clear that between today and tomorrow, they definitely cannot come back, and it just spells an unfortunate situation for the ECOWAS region.
Can the bloc survive this exit?
Definitely. As it is, the bloc. Sorry, the network continue. Is funny. Go ahead.
Yes, I can see. Yeah, continue. Can the bloc survive the exit?
Obviously, yes, the bloc might survive the exit. These three countries obviously cannot be said to be stronger than the rest of the bloc, but some of us believe that we're stronger, like I said earlier, both economically and security-wise. We're better to have all of us on board, because then we can then leverage all our strength, all the markets, and then we all can benefit more than we would do without them. But obviously, the bloc can survive without the three countries.
The countries have said they are open and available to cooperate with other nations. What would such relations look like?
Yes, it will be all sorts of relationship, as you know. We have all sorts of vendors all over the place. Permit me for using that word. You have the China, you have Saudi, Saudi Arabia, you have Russia, and the rest of them, who obviously are looking for new alliances. They're looking for new partners. They're looking for people they can trade with. And unfortunately, as an African, I know that all of this relationship over the years have never been, beneficial to Africans. We always hold the shorter part of the stick. Most often, they benefit more from these kind of alliances. So yes, you would have situations where all these other countries will come knocking. They're already hanging around the corner. So without a doubt, they are going to be showing up to say, oh, we can provide security, we can provide a bigger market, and all of that. Truth is, Africa is better together, doing business with themselves and forging an alliance that will give them enough strength to be able to negotiate what will be beneficial to the continent. But again, this is where we find ourselves today, and we're balkanized, and we're less strong than we were before.
How do you think that this exit will affect economic cooperation in the region?
They've said they're open to talk, like you earlier mentioned. I'm hoping that we would continue to negotiate with them and say, look, though we have issues on the table right now, it will be better for both of us to continue to do business. In my opinion, it will be a good thing to do to show them that we should continue to do business with ourselves. We should continue to find a way of building a security bloc around ourselves in the Sahel region. We all know what we're going through in the hands of all sorts of militias and terrorist groups. So I think what is wise is that whilst we sort out the political issue that is on the table, we should not allow ourselves to stop doing business with ourselves. For instance, when the inauguration was going on in Ghana, we were all there, and we didn't have to fight ourselves. We were able to say hello to ourselves. And so if we can greet ourselves, particularly knowing the fact that we share borders, we've been together, for a very long time, I think we should just do business with ourselves and show that whilst we're sorting out the problem that has showed up, we can still do business with ourselves and form a security bloc around ourselves, which is very necessary for the good of all of us.
Right. So do you have, concerns for potential consequences for regional stability, especially, in the area of security? We do know that a lot of times these governments, stick together. We have each other's backs whenever, when you have such terrorists in the area of the terrorism fight, for instance. How do you think this will all work out?
So, like I just said, I know that there's a problem on the table, but we all must brace up and be matured enough to understand that this is a very dire situation. We're better off cooperating with ourselves. The truth of the matter is, even with us cooperating with ourselves, we're not strong enough. So depleting or reducing that cooperation would make us less strong. And I think that is not a very wise thing to do or a wise decision to take. So my advice and plea will be that we find a way of continuing to, like I said earlier, do business with ourselves and ensure that the security that we enjoy by working together is what we continue to enjoy. Because even if we're not in the same regional bloc before, there's nothing wrong with working with your neighbors, because God has made it, that we're neighbors and we share borders, so we share a lot of things, and so we should just take advantage of that, in my opinion.
Right. African Affairs Analyst UIA Yore, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
The immediate past Vice President of Ghana, Mr. Mahamudu Bawumia, is advocating politics of inclusivity, as he says the increasing fragility of democracy in Africa and across the world is now a cause for concern in democratic countries. He made the statement at a national conference on strengthening democracy in Nigeria. Mr. Bawumia explains that the will of the people expressed through election is being truncated by leaders who place their personal interests above national interests.
Strengthening democracy in Nigeria is the thrust of this national conference as political leaders gather to brainstorm on the way forward. Eminent scholars, policymakers, civil society leaders and other stakeholders engage in the dialogue to chart actionable pathways for rebuilding trust in democratic governance. The immediate past Vice President of Ghana is the keynote speaker, and he identifies the challenges.
One of the biggest threats to democracy today is what I call the next meal principle. Before I make my point, I need to re-echo the words of one of Africa's greatest sons, the distinguished Nelson Mandela, who said that as long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality exist in our world, none of us can truly rest. End quote.
Beyond the threats, the keynote speaker, who lost the last presidential election in Ghana, calls for caution from the political class.
For our democracy to succeed and remain useful for the citizenry, ladies and gentlemen, we require a new set of leaders. Leaders who place national interest over and above individual parochial interests. Leaders who have no political integrity should not be in politics.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is represented by his political advisor, and he promises that Nigerians will soon reap the dividends of democracy from the present administration.
I would like to assure Nigerians that our administration is acutely aware of many concerns about our direction and goals, particularly given the difficulties which some of our policies inevitably generate. We are involved in correcting many defects in our economy and approaches to securing the citizen.
A former governor of Anambra State and presidential candidate of Labour Party in the 2024 general election shares his thoughts on strengthening democracy.
Talking about power grab, I'm not interested in any coalition that is for purpose of taking power. It is about discussing Nigeria. How do we care about securing Nigeria? How do we care about the common person in Nigeria? How do we care about our children being in school? That is the most important thing for now.
For the next 2 days, these stakeholders are expected to develop actionable points to engender civic mobilization that will ensure transparent electoral process, which has been identified as a major challenge to the nation's democracy.
More than 1,000 couples from Ethiopia have taken part in a traditional mass wedding ceremony known as Yeshi Gabicha, held in Addis Ababa. Couples in traditional attire marched and danced, surrounded by family and friends at the Adwa Victory Memorial. This year, the event saw participation not only from various regions of Ethiopia, but also from 43 other African countries. Yeshi Gabicha, which means 1,000 marriage, aims to unite over 1,000 couples in a traditional Ethiopian ceremony. It's sponsored by Yamint Private Limited and Ethiopia state broadcaster EBC.
Very happy for the opportunity of being here in Ethiopia for the Yeshi Gabicha, this multicultural wedding. The feeling is of happiness, and we are very thankful for the organization because they gave us the opportunity of being with people of another countries, people of another culture, and for us as a Pan-African couple, we are very happy for that.
This opportunity has been amazing for us. We have managed to see a lot of different people, a lot of different cultures from across Ethiopia and also across Africa. So I would like to encourage everyone to come in and join Yeshi Gabicha. Enjoy what Yeshi Gabicha has in store for us. There's a lot of things that we have learned from the counseling, from meeting different people, from eating different types of foods. it's just a diverse of culture which is here.
1,000 happy couples there. Finally on the program, the historic village of Hirakawa Go in Gifu Prefecture, central Japan, is beautifully lit up as visitors toured the UNESCO World Heritage Site by night. The area is renowned for its traditional Gasho Zukuri wooden houses with their steep thatched roofs has captured tourists exploring dozens of farmhouses. The steep roofs and the robust structures of Hirakawa Go's farmhouses are essential for withstanding the significant snowfall each winter, with Ogimachi village typically accumulating 1 to 2 meters of snow during the peak season. The annual Light Up event takes place every winter in this village. The next illumination date for this year is February 2nd. While the snow can pose challenges for residents, it has transformed the area into a popular tourist destination in recent years.
Travel in Japan is have a lot of fun because there are many natural sceneries which you can experience in different country or different city. And then I think this is the first time for us to have been planning for the trip to Hirakawa. And I heard it's very difficult to get a ticket for this kind of lightning show, but very lucky all of us we can come here today.
We've gone through a few of the Gasho style houses here, and just seeing the inside and then being able to see the outside and the way that they're still appreciating, the way things have been done for hundreds of years is very special. And I think the feeling of the city is pretty amazing, and I'm really enjoying being here.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching The World Today. I'm Joke Rogers.